The human brain does not process reality in the linear monochromatic fashion demanded by standard bureaucratic outlines or traditional academic note-taking methods. We live in a society that is deeply obsessed with rigid, left brain structures, teaching us from early childhood to force our thoughts into neat, sequential rows of text that crawl sluggishly from the top left corner of a page to the bottom right. In his revolutionary and highly visual masterpiece, The Mind Map Book, author Tony Buzan, alongside co-author Barry Buzan, introduces a radical neurological thesis that completely overthrows this conventional paradigm. The brain is an inherently radiant, multi-dimensional thinking engine that thrives on association, color, and spatial hierarchy. Buzan exposes the devastating intellectual and economic costs of traditional linear writing, which routinely dulls our creative processing, induces cognitive fatigue, and causes massive amounts of valuable data to be permanently forgotten. Through a meticulous breakdown of cortical skills, the mechanics of radiant thinking, and the precise architectural laws of mind mapping, the book serves as an operational blueprint to unlock the full, compounding power of human intelligence. To understand why so many highly educated professionals hit a creative wall when brainstorming or studying, we must isolate a pervasive systemic flaw, the cognitive prison of linear text. Traditional note-taking is a monochromatic exercise that relies almost exclusively on words, numbers, and logical lists. While these elements are undoubtedly essential for structured execution, they represent only a tiny fraction of our brain's vast cognitive architecture, leaving the right hemisphere's capacity for rhythm, spatial awareness, color, and imagination completely starved of stimulation. When you force a naturally dynamic mind to stare at dense walls of uniform black text, you are effectively requiring it to operate with one hand tied behind its back. The brain quickly becomes bored, entering a state of passive lethargy where its capacity for breakthrough insight completely dries up. Buzan forces us to realize that the mind naturally thinks in radiant patterns, organic networks of associations that explode outward in all directions from a central, singular focus. When you think of a simple concept like a tree, your brain does not pull up a printed, alphabetical definition of the word. Instead, it instantly flashes a vibrant visual image surrounded by a complex web of connected concepts like leaves, branches, roots, forest, and fresh oxygen. Mind mapping is the deliberate process of externalizing this natural internal architecture, creating a physical mirror of our subconscious thought loops directly onto the page. This radiant framework is operationalized through a series of strict, non-negotiable architectural laws designed to maximize retention and cognitive efficiency. The absolute foundation of a true mind map is the central image, a vivid, multicolored visual representation of your core topic placed precisely in the center of a blank, horizontal canvas. This central image acts as a psychological anchor for your attention, instantly stimulating your imagination and signaling to your brain that this is the master nucleus of the entire project. From this central image, the primary concepts explode outward in the form of thick, organic, flowing branches that represent the main categories of your thought process. These main branches act like the heavy trunk lines of a tree, providing the structural skeleton for all secondary and tertiary ideas to hang upon. Buzan emphasizes that these lines must be distinctly curved, fluid, and visually engaging, completely avoiding the rigid, straight geometric lines that cause the eye to lose interest and glaze over. By keeping the lines organic and connected, you maintain a seamless flow of mental energy, mimicking the physical neural pathways of the brain itself and creating a clear, scannable map that allows you to see the big picture and the minute details simultaneously in a single glance. To further elevate the efficiency of this cognitive map, The practitioner must master the rule of the single keyword per branch. The vast majority of beginner mind mappers mistakenly write full, complex sentences or lengthy phrases along their lines, completely misunderstanding the underlying mechanics of association. When you trap multiple words together on a single branch, you are effectively gluing those concepts into a fixed, rigid sequence, severely limiting your brain's capacity to generate new creative tangents. A single keyword, however, acts as a potent, open-ended catalyst for thought. By placing only one word on a line, you give that concept complete freedom, allowing your mind to branch off from it in a dozen unexpected multi-directional ways. Every single word becomes a node, a fertile seed that has the power to sprout an entirely new forest of ideas, drastically accelerating your brainstorming speed and uncovering hidden connections that linear thinking would systematically ignore. This semantic freedom must be immediately reinforced by the aggressive, calculated use of color across the entire map. Color is not an indulgent artistic decoration in this context. It is a vital, data-driven strategy to enhance memory retention and cognitive organization. Our brains are biologically optimized to respond to contrast and visual variety, which is why assigning distinct colors to separate conceptual branches helps the mind effortlessly categorize information, isolate variables, and recall specific details days, weeks, or months down the line without any cognitive strain. This visual architecture achieves its ultimate leverage when verbal keywords are perfectly synchronized with symbols, icons, and three-dimensional images. A single, well-placed picture carries a massive chunk of cognitive data, activating a dense web of immediate associations far faster than a lengthy paragraph ever could. Buzan highlights the underappreciated psychological concept of synesthesia, the deliberate blending of multiple sensory inputs to create an unbreakable, multi-dimensional memory trace within the brain. When you accompany a keyword about a target goal with an image of a bullseye, or a financial milestone with an explicit sketch of a treasure chest, you are engaging both hemispheres of your intellect simultaneously. You are combining the analytical precision of the word with the emotional, creative force of the image, transforming your notes from a flat, boring record of the past into a vibrant, high-energy environment that actively demands the engagement of your consciousness. To prevent this explosion of creative data from degenerating into a chaotic, unreadable mess of thoughts, the mind mapper must apply the rules of hierarchy and categorization. While radiant thinking is inherently free-flowing and uninhibited, true intelligence requires the capacity to find order within complexity, structuring the chaos into a highly functional blueprint. This is achieved by ensuring that your branches move systematically from high-level, abstract generalizations near the center toward highly specific, granular data points at the outer edges. The thickness of the lines, the size of the text, and the scale of the images should naturally taper down as you move further away from the nucleus, establishing an intuitive, visual hierarchy that your eyes can navigate effortlessly. Furthermore, you can utilize clean boundaries, arrows, and connecting codes to link disparate branches across the map, revealing subtle undercurrents of cause and effect that would remain completely hidden in a traditional spreadsheet or Word document. Ultimately, the Mind Map Book is an urgent, evolutionary manifesto that demands a total reclamation of our native human potential. It forces us to reject the obsolete, assembly line educational systems that treat the human intellect as a passive repository for uniform, linear compliance. True creative mastery and strategic brilliance belong to the individual who knows how to step outside the boundaries of structured text, choosing instead to map their thoughts using the organic, radiant laws of nature. The journey to an extraordinary life of clarity and innovation does not require an academic degree or a genetic miracle. It simply requires you to look at your brain with absolute respect, to honor its natural affinity for color, space, and imagery, and to design your ideas accordingly. By dropping the exhausting weight of linear lists, payment to automated habits of radiant thinking, and anchoring your thoughts in visual networks, you break the chains of mental stagnation forever. The next time you find yourself staring at a blank page, trying to solve a complex problem or plan a massive project, drop your pen, open your mind, map your thoughts, and watch your intelligence expand across the page.